Welcome back, everyone. We're going deep today, like really deep into a Ugandan court case.
Oh, yeah, this one's a doozy.
We've got all these court documents about this road construction project,
Hmm.
and it just went completely sideways.
Yeah, lots of allegations flying around about fraud and just millions missing,
Poof.
vanished.
Yeah.
So get this.
Okay.
It all starts back in 2010 with this road.
The Mukono Katosi Kisoganyenga Road.
Yeah, that's the one. And it's in its bidding phase, right?
Right.
So this company shows up, Utah Construction Company, Inc.
Utah.
But first they say they're from Mississippi.
Huh.
And then all of a sudden, they're in Florida.
Well, that's not suspicious at all.
Right. And get this, right off the bat, the bid security they submit, forged.
Like completely fake, right from the start. It's just shady.
Total red flag.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge.
Okay, so then we jump ahead a few years to 2013.
Right.
There's all this pressure to get this road built.
Yeah, the public's getting impatient.
Exactly. And the funds have finally become available. So enter Abraham Byandala. He's the Minister of Works.
Ah, okay.
And he's facing all this heat, right? So he tells Sebaga to just sign the contract with Utah.
Who's in Sebaga?
Oh, he was the acting executive director of UNRA.
The UNRA.
Uganda National Roads Authority.
Oh, right, of course. So Byandala just tells him to sign it,
Yeah.
even though there were already all these problems.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So later, the court actually said this was legal
I know, right?
based on the procurement laws at the time.
Wild.
Yeah. But, sometimes those laws have, like, loopholes,
Absolutely.
and people can really take advantage of them.
Oh, yeah. And while all of this is going on, UNRA is supposed to be doing like a due diligence investigation into Utah.
You'd think that would be a priority.
Right. But before they even finish it, UNRA makes this huge advance payment to Utah.
How much are we talking?
Over 24 billion Ugandan shillings.
Whoa. That's a lot of shillings.
Yeah. And of course, you always got to follow the money, right?
Right. That's where things get juicy.
It gets wild. So they said this payment was secured by guarantees.
Okay. Makes sense.
But guess what? Those guarantees forged too.
Are you serious? So we've got fake bid security and fake guarantees.
Yeah. So far, this is not looking good for UNRA.
Not at all. And we're just getting started.
It's like they built this whole thing on, like, a foundation of
It's
lies.
just a matter of time before it all collapses.
So we've got all these forged documents. We've got money flying around. It's like a really bad movie.
Yeah, like a financial thriller gone wrong.
Exactly.
So who are the players in this movie?
Okay, so we've got Joe Simagoma. He's the director of finance at UNRA.
All right. And I'm guessing he didn't exactly cover himself in glory here.
Not exactly.
Okay, what did he do?
And then there's Wilberforce Sanjako. He was in charge of, like, checking those securities.
The ones that turned out to be fake?
Yep.
Oof.
And both of them, they just didn't do their jobs. They didn't check anything, and that's how that giant payment went through.
So they were supposed to be the gatekeepers, and they just, left the gate wide open.
Pretty much.
Wow. Okay, so who else is involved?
Okay, so now we got to talk about Apollo Sinkido. He was supposed to be the representative for Utah.
The company that might not even exist.
Yeah, maybe. So Sinkido, he opens a company account in Uganda,
Okay.
makes himself the only person who can sign for it,
Uh-oh.
and then starts making these massive payments from that account.
Including to himself, I bet.
You got it.
Classic. Get control of the money, then funnel it to your own pockets.
And to make things even more complicated, Sinkido subcontracts the actual work to another company,
Which one?
CICO. It was owned by a guy named Nu Hong.
So we've got layers upon layers here. It's like trying to track a slippery octopus.
Totally. And just when you think you've got a handle on it, another tentacle pops out.
Exactly. But eventually someone had to notice, right?
Oh, yeah. Eventually, the Inspector General of Government steps in.
Yeah, IGG.
Yep. They put a stop to the whole project.
About time. What was their reasoning?
Well, they had concerns about who the contractor really was.
Makes sense.
And, of course, about those guarantees.
That were totally bogus.
Yeah,
So it's like someone finally turned the lights on and everyone could see what a mess it was.
Exactly. But not everyone was happy about it. Apparently, Byandala, the minister, he allegedly told his minister of state to keep the project going.
Even though the IGG had shut it down.
Yeah.
Wow. Bold move. What happened with that?
Well, that charge against him was later dropped because there wasn't enough evidence. But it shows just how much pressure he was under to get that road built.
Yeah, I can imagine. High-profile project, public scrutiny. It's a lot.
So the investigators kept digging, right? And they uncovered even more forged documents. performance guarantees, more bid guarantees, advance payment bonds.
All fake.
All fake. And guess who they all led back to?
Senkido. Right. You got it.
What a tangled web we've woven here.
So the thing about this case is that it really hinges on circumstantial evidence, meaning...
Well, there wasn't one, like, aha moment in court, you know?
No smoking gun.
Exactly. The judge had to, like, piece everything together to figure out what happened, like a giant puzzle.
So you're saying the outcome of this whole case rests on connecting the dots, following the paper trail, and understanding the relationships between everyone involved.
Exactly. And that's why we're taking a deep dive into this case. We want to explore just how courts deal with these complicated situations where things aren't always black and white.
Where you have to rely on the weight of the evidence, even if it's not a clear-cut confession or a single incriminating document.
Exactly. So buckle up, because we're about to go deep into the courtroom and see how the judge unravels this whole mess using basically a mountain of circumstantial evidence.
So we've got this whole mess, right? Fake documents, missing money, everyone pointing fingers. What happens when it finally goes to court?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. It wasn't like, oh, here's the proof, case closed. It was way more complicated than that.
So a real legal thriller. I like it.
The judge had to rely on all this circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial.
Yeah, like putting all these little pieces together to see the bigger picture. No smoking gun, just a lot of little clues.
Oh, that's fascinating. So how did that work out for everyone involved?
Well, let's start with Byandala, the Minister of Works.
The one who told Seguga to just sign the contract.
Yeah. Him, he was acquitted of all charges.
Really? Even after everything that happened?
The court said, basically, that what he did was within his authority as minister.
So, following the rules got him off the hook?
Yeah.
Interesting. What about Seguga? He signed the contract, right?
He did, and he was acquitted too.
So both the minister and the guy who actually signed the contract, they're both in the clear?
Yep. The court found that Seguga was just doing his job, following orders and all that.
It makes you wonder, if someone's just following orders, where does the responsibility lie?
That's a big question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what about Simagoma, the director of finance?
The one who didn't catch the fake guarantees.
Yeah. He was found guilty, but only of abuse of office.
Okay. So not for, losing all that money.
Well, that's the weird part. He was actually acquitted of causing financial loss.
Wait, how does that even work?
It's because the prosecution couldn't say exactly how much money was lost.
Oh, so they couldn't prove the amount, even though it was clear that something shady was going on.
Basically.
That's frustrating. Someone stole from the cookie jar, but you can't prove how many cookies are missing.
Exactly.
So then what about the legal counsel? Byandala, right. He gave the advice, so shouldn't he be responsible too?
Well, the court actually acquitted him. They said his advice, even though it turned out to be bad advice, was reasonable at the time.
So he gets a pass because he didn't know the whole story.
I guess so. It's tricky, right? Because even experts can get things wrong.
Absolutely. And then there's the big guy, Senkido. What happened to him?
Oh, he was found guilty on a bunch of charges. Theft, using fake documents, the whole 9 yards.
So they finally got him. What about the others, though? Like that bank manager, Mugote.
He was acquitted of conspiracy. They didn't have enough evidence to connect him to Senkido.
And lastly, Senjako, the one who was supposed to check the securities.
Guilty of neglect of duty.
So some convictions, some acquittals. It sounds like a pretty mixed bag.
It is. And it leaves you wondering, did justice really prevail?
Right. Did they get everyone who was responsible? Did they recover any of the money?
Those are the questions that the judgment doesn't really answer.
So it's like a puzzle with a few missing pieces. We know something happened. We know who some of the players were, but we might never have the full picture.
And that's the thing about this case. It really makes you think about accountability, about the power of information, and about how we all need to be more critical thinkers.
Yeah, if you were on that UNRA committee, what would you have done differently? What questions would you have asked?
Right. How do you protect yourself and your organization from something like this happening?
It's a reminder that we all need to be more aware, more skeptical, and more willing to question things, even when they seem official or legitimate.
Exactly, because ultimately knowledge is power, and the more informed we are, the better equipped we are to navigate this complex world.
So this case, it's not just about a road in Uganda, is it? It's a lesson for all of us.
Absolutely. And it's a lesson that we'll be unpacking even further as we move into our final thoughts on this captivating case. What will you be pondering long after this episode is over?
Okay, so we've gone through all these twists and turns. We've seen forged documents, shady deals, and court battles. What's the takeaway here? Like, what can we learn from all this?
Well, for me, it goes way beyond just this one road project in Uganda. This is about, holding people accountable. It's about being transparent. And it's about how we deal with all this information that's constantly coming at us.
Right, because some of it's true, but some of it, not so much.
Exactly. So how do you know what to believe? How do you avoid getting fooled?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Imagine yourself sitting on that UNRA committee looking at all those bids. How do you know which ones are legit? What are the warning signs? How do you protect yourself from getting scammed?
That's a good point. It's like you have to be a detective.
Yeah, you have to be skeptical. You have to look for those little inconsistencies.
Right. Like who stands to gain from this? Who wrote this? Is there something they're not telling me?
Exactly. You can't just take things at face value.
And you can't just trust people because they're in a position of authority or because they seem like an expert.
You always have to do your own research.
Absolutely. Check their sources, see if other people are saying the same thing.
It's like you building your own case file.
Right. Exactly. And sometimes the truth is messy. It's not always clear cut.
And sometimes you have to be willing to change your mind if new evidence comes up.
That's true. It's like being open to, different perspectives and being okay with being wrong sometimes.
Yeah, it's all about being humble and realizing that you don't know everything.
And being willing to learn. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I hope you all walk away with a few things.
A sense of curiosity.
A desire to learn more. And maybe even a little bit of, healthy skepticism.
Absolutely. The world is full of information, but it's up to you to decide what's real and what's not.
Don't just accept everything you read or hear. Think for yourself, ask questions, and never stop connecting the dots.
That's the key.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.